Good morning. Welcome to the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. I am Commissioner Krista Yoakum, Chair of the Board. To my right is Commissioner Sean Flowerday. To my far right is Commissioner Roma Amundson. To my left, Commissioner Rick Vest, and to my far left, Commissioner Matt Schulte. Because we anticipate there may be comments on the agenda items today, we don't very often get public comments, but it's always good to have the public weigh in on things. We will limit public comments on agenda items to 3 minutes. I just wanted to say that up front. We'll probably announce it again during some of the agenda items. Will you please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, you may begin with the location announcement.
Location announcement of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located at the wall of the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available for electronic viewing from the county clerk's staff. Printing options are available upon request. These materials can also be viewed at the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Brings us to item 1, minutes. 1A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held on October 3rd, 2023.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Abstain.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yoakum.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 1B, approval of the minutes of the Youth Services Director interviews held on October 2nd, 2023.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the interviews. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yep.
Yoakum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 2, claims. 2A, approval of the claims processed through October 10th, 2023.
Move approval.
Do we need to
Do we,
add the payroll disbursements?
Oh, excuse me, there is, yes.
okay, I would amend my motion to include the payroll disbursements. I was second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the payroll disbursements through October 4th. Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yep.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yoakum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 2B, approval of a claim to the Indian Center in the amount of $25,990.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claim to the Indian Center. Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yoakum.
I'll abstain as my husband serves on their board.
Motion carries 4-0 with an abstention. Item 2C, approval of a claim to El Centro de las Americas in the amount of $9,437.68.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claim to El Centro de las Americas. Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yoakum.
I will abstain as I serve on their board.
Motion carries 4-0 with an abstention. Item 2D, an approval of a claim including billing for goods and services beyond the 90-day time period provided in Nebraska Revised Statute 23-135 for Rickstein recognition dating October 14th, 2023 for a total of $27.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this claim. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yoakum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 3, consent items. These are routine business items that are expected to be adopted without dissent. Any individual item may be removed for special discussion and consideration by a commissioner, by any member of the public without prior notice. Unless there is an exception, these items will be approved as one single vote of the Board of Commissioners. These are the approval of A, amendments to the following county contracts, C-23-0013 with David Shively for professional election consulting services. The amendment extends the term for 6 months beginning October 10th, 2023 through April 10th, 2024. 2, with Vulcan Signs, Vulcan Aluminum for the annual supply of traffic sign faces. B, right-of-way contracts with the following: Jeremy and Cassandra Kurtzler, Southwest 114th Street, West Whitstruck Road, in the amount of $505. Then Cynthia J. Fixmeyer, Southwest 112th Street, West Yankee Hill Road, in the amount of $1,382.50. Beaumont United Credit Trust, Southwest 42nd Street and West Bennett Road, in the amount of $280.50. Ronald C. and Myra J. Morrison, Southwest 86th Street and West Panama Road, in the amount of $842.50. A grant contract with the Lutheran Family Services for the Health 360 program in the amount of $92,700. And receive and place on file the following reports: the mileage reimbursement reports in according with R21-0053 for July through September 2023, the county sheriff for July through September 23, records and information management for September 2023, assessor register of deeds for September 2023, clerk at the district court for September of 2023, and the county clerk for September of 2023.
Move approval of the consent items?
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent items. Yes.
I've been approached by a member of the public to consider A1 separately.
Okay. We need a new motion to, we need a motion to pull.
I move to pull A1 from the consent items.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to remove item A and consider that separately. Please call the roll for that motion.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Best,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we also have a motion and a second to approve the remaining consent items. Is that appropriate? Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Best,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion for the remaining consent items, so it passes 5-0.
Motion to consider item A.
I would move approval of item A1. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item A1. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Rich was the one who had approached me. Rich, I don't know if you wanted to make a comment on this at all?
Again, this is where we limit comment time to 3 minutes.
Excuse me?
Did you want to make a comment or ask a question about A1? when
Yes,
you
I
asked
would
me?
like to.
Okay.
Now?
Yeah, now's the
And,
time.
and
Go
this
right
is
ahead.
where we'll limit, you'll need to state your name, sign in on the form there, and we'll limit this comment to 3 minutes.
My comment is, why is he being hired in the first place? We already have an election commissioner for Lancaster County. So what is the necessary need for spending $75 an hour to somebody that's retired? Number two, if you do approve this, which I don't think you should, but if you do, don't let him go without that $1 million policy, okay? Because I have some inside information that he might be party to an upcoming lawsuit if he does get the contract with the county. Because there is election fraud across the board, and we all know it. You know, okay, that's all I have to say.
One, I guess, question, John, maybe you could help me with this. I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. This is an extension of the existing contract, but it does not add further funds to the contract. Am I reading that correct?
That is correct. I believe the original contract said not to exceed $10,000. And this amendment has a paragraph towards the end saying that all terms not in conflict with this amendment are still in effect. So I would say that if I'm correct about that $10,000, that would be the not to exceed amount.
Then the gentleman just raised the issue, the one substantial change in this extension is the dropping of an insurance piece. And can you just help me understand that a little
Yes.
bit more from a legal perspective?
Yes, and that is because Mr. Shively in this case would not be on site to do work, and I believe the work that he would do would not require any sort of professional licensure. So in other cases, in similar circumstances, we've dropped the insurance requirement for those circumstances.
Okay. So, I mean, Rich made a comment about potential lawsuit, but that would be related to if that were to happen, that would be potentially related to his employment previously and not currently.
I can't comment on that. I don't have any knowledge of that.
Before us.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Do we have any idea where we stand on the actual, if there's a $10,000 lid, where we are at actually the expenditures
something
on that
that
so
you can
far? I'm
address?
just curious.
Todd Wilchin, the Lancaster County Election Commissioner. Mr. Ward is correct. The original contract was for $10,000. Up to this point, we have spent $5,343.75. We have, that remains $4,656.25.
Thank you for that information.
Thanks, I appreciate that, Mr. Wilchin.
Seeing no further comment, would you please call the roll?
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to item 4, new business. Item 4A, approval of the supervising attorney classifications description effective October 10th, 2023.
Move approval.
I will second. I don't see anyone from the attorney's office here this morning.
I can make a few comments on this. I believe this was before the board at a staff meeting recently, and this is just the follow-up. Item A would be the approval, and then I believe B and C are related to amend the resolution for the unclassified employees. And this is just carrying through with that and the salary schedule for the supervising attorney role in the county attorney's office.
Yeah,
I think
that
we've
is
got- I mean,
my
this is-
understanding of these next items
And
as
this,
well.
and this has been, I mean, we talked about this at budget too. And
Right.
the whole thing's been handled.
And that's the point I want to make here,
Yeah,
is that, County Attorney Condon presented to this to us in a very understandable format during the budget hearings, and came back to get it onto the agenda. So we've been very thoroughly briefed about the changes he's making, and they seem very reasonable to me.
And the county attorney's office had a great budget. They just did.
We have a motion and a second to approve the supervising attorney classification description. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4B, a resolution in the matter of adopting benefits for county employees in the unclassified service to include supervising attorneys.
I'd move approval, but I'd like to there's a spelling error in there. So just with the amendment of,
I will
Correct me if spelling error.
second. I see the N, the missing N.
I don't believe you.
County.
We have a motion
Oh,
and
yep.
a second to approve this resolution with the correction of the spelling. Please call the roll.
Schulte,
yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4C, a resolution in the matter of adopting a salary schedule for the deputy county attorneys for supervising attorneys.
Move approval.
I will second and comment that those young eyes don't miss much over there.
This, we have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. 4D, resolution in the matter authorizing the county board chair to sign an agreement with the Nebraska Department of Transportation to install an automatic license plate reader system on the state highway right-of-way.
We'll let Chief Deputy Houchin speak first, and then we'll come back to you.
Chief Deputy Ben Houchin from Lancaster County Sheriff's Office. As you know, we have been using vigilant cameras on cruisers. We have 4 of them at this point in time, 3 of them with the Criminal Interdiction Unit, 1 of them with our Fugitive Task Force. We have been in contact with the Nebraska Department of Transportation, and our goal is just to have them up there 24 hours all the time, because the only time that they are used is when our cruisers are up there, and that's about 10 hours, 4 days a week. So that's where we are. We are out to help protect the public. We have a lot of stolen cars coming from Lincoln and Omaha. As you know, we were the reason why a homicide in Texas got found in Grand Island because of our system. The car went by and it got a hit about 30 minutes later, and they got him arrested with evidence in the trunk of the car. So, and I'm here if you guys have any questions.
What, can you talk a little just a bit about the data storage? So like, whether these are fixed or on a car, I don't see a substantive difference in terms of the technology there.
No.
But just talk to me about the data storage. We're doing no facial recognition.
No,
with this.
we are not.
And we are, does the company keep the information? Do they have access to it? Is it just law enforcement? I mean, it's the same set of questions that I've had in the past.
Right,
on
right.
these.
It is just, the company has the information. We have a state statute, right, at this point that runs how we operate our license plate readers, and we follow that to a T. So if it's 180 days, if there's no reason to keep it. Now, if there is a case going on or something of that can prolong it. All we get is the license plate. So we don't get where people live, we don't get who registers the vehicle or anything like that. The only time it activates is if there's a stolen car that goes by, and then we have to verify it. Now, we just can't go stop it because of that. So there's a lot of checks and balances in it. There's so many cars that go by there. We don't care who's going by there except for bad people that are doing crimes.
And can the company sell the information?
No.
And the sheriff's office presumably is not selling the information?
No, we are certainly not selling the information.
Well,
Because I did not get a briefing on that, we didn't have this at a Thursday meeting, and
Yeah.
I didn't get a briefing on this, I have some questions too.
Certainly.
So when there's a stolen vehicle, that information is put into the system so that the camera
NCIC.
looks for it, or how does that?
NCIC. And we get hits off NCIC. So if somebody goes by and they're entered in a warrant and they're somehow related to the license plate, it will ding at that point in time. But it doesn't do anything other than that. So we get our information, which is controlled, by the federal government, the FBI, and that. So it is very, very well protected.
What happens, say, if someone comes by Lincoln, it hits, and you guys get a ding, I guess is the
Yeah.
word you said. Like, so then what's your response? How do you guys handle that? How do we
Depending
find
on
out?
what it is.
Okay.
So if it's a stolen car, first thing we do is we verify that that is an actual stolen car and that plate is. Because you could get a piece of dirt, a piece of mud, and it could read wrong. So that's the reason why you have to make sure it is what it is. And at that point in time, if we verify it's that, then we go take proper law enforcement action at that point.
Yeah.
The reason why a Texas homicide was solved was because of that. And like I said, it probably wouldn't have been solved as quick, and he could have been a long ways away if it wasn't for that system. And we've solved, I think, 3 homicides with this. One of them in Lincoln that we verified it. It went by one down in Texas. We notify them, they do a SWAT call on the individuals and get them in custody. Would not have happened without this system. The Unabomber, the Boston bombing, would not have been solved as quickly without this system. It's all over on the East and West Coast. We're just slow here. The Supreme Court has said that this is not a violation of privacy, and they let it go. So, I mean, it's just like writing a plate down as it passes you anyway.
Commissioner Best?
yeah, Ben, thank you for being here this morning. So we have allowed this technology on cars within the sheriff's department. This will be the same technology that we approved at that time, i.e. you're getting license plate numbers that are connected to some kind of a law enforcement incident.
Yes.
And that's the only information you get at that time is, here's a license plate, it was connected to some crime.
Right. And we don't have all our people connected getting this information all the time. You know, like I said, we have rules we have to follow and do that, or we lose it. And the last thing we want to have happen is this technology get lost, because it's going to help us and it's going to keep the citizens of Lancaster County safer.
Yeah. And so let me follow up with that then. The request before us today is that these are on cars.
Correct.
The ones we have now. The motion, or the issue before us today is to put 2 more readers on the interstate at a permanent fixed location. Did I understand you correctly that those would only be active when a patrol car is there, or?
No, they're only active now when our patrol car's there.
Oh,
That will
okay.
make it
Because they're
24
car mounted.
hours is on.
Now, these sites would be
Right.
24/7 with the same information that we're already gathering when we have staff available to be out there.
I can't go into the case very deeply, but my guys were out at 2 in the morning on Sunday because there was a case that they were working that they needed to have this technology out there. This will help prevent that part of it from having to happen.
Yeah.
Also, none of this money that we're spending is going to come from taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah. I know we had a very thorough discussion on this the first time, and, you know, my common sense, let's help law enforcement get bad guys put away, says absolutely. My libertarian part says, oh, what's the government doing now? And so, but I think at that point, we worked very hard to make sure privacy is protected, and we established the guidelines that Ben's presenting here today. I didn't know, Commissioner.
We will not ever, in my thought process, especially with the equipment and how we're using it now, ever even consider facial recognition. It just plain one, it wouldn't work out there. I mean, cars are going by too fast and all that stuff. So that's not even in our thought process whatsoever. And I know some people have brought that up in concerns before, but a lot of people don't understand this technology. I mean, I think they think Big Brother's watching everything, and all this information pops up, and that's just not true.
And I'm not going to be in support. I'll just get myself on the record now. I'm not going to ever be in support of
Right.
facial recognition. Like, it just
Absolutely.
Established that.
the fundamental difference that I see between the two technologies, and people can argue with me on this, but is, you know, you don't have a choice about having a face, right? Everyone has a face. You do actually have a choice about whether or not you have a license plate. You do, and fundamentally, license plates are a system of government identification used for tracking vehicles. So that's where I go back and forth on it, and I go, even though I certainly have some privacy concerns and some of the libertarian angles that Commissioner Vest was saying, I think fundamentally, I've already accepted the premise on the cars. So.
Nor would I want it used for crimes that are much lesser crimes. Someone who didn't pay child support and, you know, their cars, they've got that information. Or someone who had a speeding ticket that they didn't go to court for, so now it's out on warrant. I wouldn't want those kinds of
Most of those don't
incidences.
have license plates attached to it.
Good information for me to know. But yeah, those are the types of things I would not want touched. I believe we had a member of the public that wanted to speak as well. Scout? Did you want to come forward?
Rick Hill. This here is a warrant for my arrest, okay? And I wanted to be here this morning. Now, if I got pulled over on Capitol Parkway coming into town, I would not have had the opportunity to visit with you people. We already live in a police state. Look at your phone. They're listening to everything on it. Okay? We don't need more laws, more surveillance, more cameras, more everything. The file is endless on each one of us. You know, I was at January the 6th. The FBI has a dossier on me just because of that. Okay? Am I a criminal? Well, the FBI says I am. I've had it. We need our liberties reinstated, get rid of the Patriot Act. I think that would take a monumental moment of prayer to get rid of. But we don't live in a free state anymore, okay? And I don't care how many bad guys you catch. The bad guys are sitting in the White House. It's just the truth. We're on the verge of World War III, and we want to track somebody's license plate. Really? It won't matter after the nuke goes off. This country was founded on principles of freedom, not slavery. Do you have any questions?
I don't see any, thank you.
Okay. See, I love my country, but it's not my country anymore. And you know it. We have to take it back. Because if we don't now, it'll be gone forever. Thank you.
Please state your
Good
name.
morning.
and-
Hi, my name is Scout Richters. I am the Policy Director of the ACLU of Nebraska. Thank you, Chairperson Yocum. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm here today in opposition to the proposed resolution and agreement. I do have written testimony to distribute. Thank you. But I just wanted to summarize a few key points here. The primary concern we have is that this agreement will facilitate and further large-scale police and government surveillance of all motors who travel along the interstate between the designated mile markers. As you heard, many ALPRs can collect hundreds of license plate numbers in seconds, and the tracking of people's location constitutes a significant invasion of privacy, which can reveal many things about their lives, such as what friends, doctors, protests, meetings, political activities, or religious institutions a person visits. It is a core principle that the government and police agencies do not invade people's privacy and collect information about citizens' innocent activities just in case they do something wrong. Given the fact that the vast majority, which is 99% plus of drivers whose images are captured are not guilty of any crime, that makes their privacy interests even stronger. Photographing a single license plate on a public street may not seem problematic, but when you consider that the data is compiled in a database showing where the car appeared over the course of weeks or months, the government will have significant information about a person and deeply personal aspects of their life. Oftentimes, the data collected by these devices are retained by the private provider of the system, and even though we know there are some limitations on what the government and law enforcement can do with the captured data, there's not a clear description of what the private company will be doing with the information that's collected. We have a state law, LB 93, which was introduced by Senator Matt Hansen, that was passed in 2018, based on the concern that state legislators had regarding law enforcement engaging in automatic and widespread surveillance and data collection. I think that that's important to mention because it's not only the ACLU that has these concerns, but representatives across the political spectrum share these concerns. And so for these reasons, we urge you not to approve this agreement.
The concerns, as I heard them, the private company, there are no restrictions.
Correct.
Concerned about restrictions on the
The private company, because we do have the state law that impacts what law enforcement agencies can do with the information, but that does not extend to the private company.
Are you concerned about it because what's presented to us is that it's just license plate numbers that are being gathered here? I mean, obviously, information goes with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get that. That's public information, I presume. But are you concerned, does that cause you concern that it's license plate numbers, or it's just what?
I think it's the concern is that when this is all compiled together, it really can give a really telling look into, or a very personal look into someone's life when it's all compiled together. I mean, just one instance of a photograph of a license plate might not be a significant privacy interest, but when we compile it all together over the course of weeks and months, then that concern becomes greater.
Okay, you're saying it changes because of the 180 days that the information's kept? Is that?
Correct, but I think that it's important to know that the 180 days applies to, does not apply to the private companies.
Okay.
Isn't that true of any police investigation, though? I mean, citizen, John Doe is implicated in a crime, and the police are doing an investigation. They gather, yes, an enormous amount of information. They learn a lot about that individual, usually where they work, where they live, I mean, isn't that like, I don't disagree with you, but haven't we already accepted that premise?
I think,
Isn't that the very nature of police investigations? That's the difference here that I go back and forth on. And it's not that I'd like to find a happy medium here, but I just don't. It's a government system for tracking vehicles.
and I
What's
think,
different?
I think the difference is that you're tracking vehicles of everyone. So you're getting pictures of everyone's license plate. There is no information that this specific car was involved.
All right, that's actually a good argument.
Could I ask a couple of questions of Chief Deputy Houchin again?
We may want to keep her here.
Yeah, hang out. Thanks. One of my questions is, we know that by statute there are limitations on law enforcement, but it was just brought up that the company with this equipment is not beholden to those same statutes. Is it in the contract somewhere? You said they won't sell the information.
We do not share our information with private.
But
The
No,
company.
we have marked it on ours that we will not allow them to share our information with private entities.
And that's on this contract?
This isn't the contract.
Okay.
This is just to put them up.
But the contract with our
With what we have right now says that we are already using this technology.
Right.
So yes, we do not share that information. With private entities. They cannot, Vigilant cannot give that information to tow trucks. The reason why they use it privately, one is parking. Two is they put them on tow trucks and they look for repo, because that's what their list is. So they drive around, if a car hits on that and it's got a repossession, then they go hook it up and do that. That's their reason for having the technology.
But under our contract, they can't do those things.
They can't use our information, no. And I do not know of any, I know UNL has their own private license plate readers on that, and I know some businesses like car washes, you pull up and it's amazing what they already know about you. So what we are doing is so much less than what's going on, and the only time we are getting any of this information is when an actually true bad guy is doing something that's hurting our citizens, and I think everybody here should be concerned about that.
And I don't want to stand in the way of what law enforcement needs to do, and I believe that you are the experts in the field, and I have a lot of faith in our county law enforcement. And if you were washing my car, I wouldn't mind at all if you were reading my license plate.
That all reads it and pay for it. Yes.
or opening my garage or something. But I do have some concerns about this. And now I've forgotten what my second question was.
Like you said, this information goes by. We have to sign what a case number is, why we are looking this up, and it gets totaled into this information. So, and then it's double checked on those things. And like I said, not everybody gets this information. Only a few that are selected to do this can run and get the information off the plates and get that information, even when a bad guy goes by. It's not like it's going off on all our cell phones going, hey, this car went by.
Right.
It's not doing that. It is actually going to save, if one of our kids got kidnapped and we got a plate and it goes by, it's going to let us know. I mean, I don't know the argument here. I don't see her point.
Can you tell me what other counties in Nebraska are doing this?
Kearney just put them up. And
So Buffalo County or Kearney County?
the city,
Okay.
they're up and doing that right now. And they have this agreement with the state already.
And again, my concern is not what law enforcement's doing with this information as much as the company that owns the machines, that owns the system.
These cameras, because we're talking about two cameras here.
Right.
These two cameras will operate under the same contract that we already have with this company. And
Yes. We have to follow the state law, and the state law is very stringent on what we can and cannot do. There is a big hole in the United States. Like I said, these are all over East and West Coast. I mean, all of the cities in California have them all the time, and on the West Coast. We miss things here because none of them are up and running, especially in Nebraska. Iowa is beginning to get them and doing that. So this is just, we are behind the times. I mean, this is 10-year technology that's been being used. And how many times have you heard anything bad from it? And I promise you, if something bad happened, it would have made national news.
I hear the concern for invasion of privacy, and I understand that. One point of clarification, you said there's no tax dollars being used to pay for the cameras. You hear that sometimes. I'm just curious, so how are we paying for them?
Forfeit assets.
Okay.
Bad guys are paying for this to catch more bad guys.
If I may,
Yeah.
commissioners, this is, as I said, there are good arguments on both sides of this issue. I've tried to play it out. I'm going to make a motion to support this agreement and place 2 cameras on Interstate 80. I think the benefits outweigh the concerns. I'm glad we had the discussion, but I think this is the right decision to make.
And I will second that. You had explained that very clearly to us before, and I'm fully in support of that, because I do know that this has been used very effectively in combating crime.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further
Does
discussion?
anybody else get to speak to the matter?
Sure.
With all due respect to our law enforcement friend, doing something just because somebody else is doing it is a bad argument. So that's all I wanted to say to that.
I just want to say that I'm for this. My son-in-law is a narcotics LPD officer, and just this week, I don't know if it's the same case Ben was on, but he was out till 4 a.m., and he uses this all the time to catch the bad guys. And we have fentanyl coming across constantly, and that's what my son-in-law is chasing on a daily basis here, Monday through Friday. So I'm for this.
I believe that there are some.
Sorry, would you mind stating your name and signing in, please?
Oh,
And one thing I should say is, you know, if you're a good guy, we shouldn't worry about it. It's the bad guys that we're doing.
we are in a police state. Our own Department of Justice in the United States of America has targeted and deemed parents that want to fight against grooming as terrorists. The concerns that I have is, although, well, if you would have talked to me probably about 10 years ago, I would have said, okay, I think this is a good idea. But what is being used is to tell us they're going to go after the bad guys, but our borders are open here. And who is open to the software? We can't even get cast vote records out of our voting machines. The new election county commissioner, Shively, didn't, and now we are in such corruption. This city is so corrupt, I can't believe it. Our concerns, we want to protect the law-abiding citizens and get the bad guys off the streets. And I think, I hope we do have like a state militia and stuff like that, to where we have people and watchful citizens and the things that are needing to be done. But what has happened is I can see this being used, and I could see like the White House, the federal government, DOJ, Attorney General Merrick Garland coming and talking with somebody and saying, hey, we're watching these people and we want to know where they're traveling, coming and going forward and doing this, and then using it to use against them in corrupt judges, in laws where there's not of justice being upheld. And that's what my concern is here, is that we need to make sure that we do not allow these things to third parties and become a police state, because quite frankly, our United States government with the Biden administration and the globalists have made our cities a police state. We can't even get our cast vote records. We can't even get the source code. And we are told that through public records laws, it does or doesn't exist. My question is this: who's the software? What are the company and the connections? Our own mayor took trips funded by the People's Liberation Army of China, the Chinese Communist Party, looked through the New Deal. Was there an audit? Has there been an audit on the mayor's office? I'm telling you, Google has helped with surveillance. So what is the question in all these areas and the connection point? We already are living in a police state. It grieves my heart, but that's happening. We already had a report that there was a Chinese police station in Omaha, Nebraska, but people tried to shut that down and shut it out and call Marsha Blackburn a liar out of Tennessee. This is real. Commissioner Munson, your background, you understand the reality of these areas. But quite frankly, to say that I trust you, I don't trust any of you, because I believe what we saw happen was during COVID. You had us wear masks, stay several feet away, but then other people were privy to certain meetings and could sit next to each other.
That is your time. Thank you.
Have to make a follow-up, because Fanchon did, about the fentanyl. All we have to do is close the southern border, and the fentanyl is going to stop.
Connie Ranke, Lancaster County. These elections and the chaos going on in the world right now, the people coming across the border creating more criminals. The number one reason why there's criminals is drugs and trafficking. This is all happening, and our elected officials are letting our elections just not investigating. This chaos has been created so that they can come in and say, we need more safety. We need to keep you safe, so we need to track you and surveil you. And that is the problem with all of this. I want to be safe. Everybody wants to be safe, but it's happening in the name of tracking and surveillance. So I would not be in favor of this.
Good morning. My name is Penny Stevens, and I wasn't planning on speaking on this, but this is quite concerning. As a retired citizen, an individual who's fighting for election integrity, a couple weeks ago, the President of the United States stated those fighting for election integrity and standing up for their right to vote were terrorists. Last week, Senator Hillary Clinton said we were terrorists. At what point will this system be used against us? Thank you.
Seeing no further testimony, we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes. Yep.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Brings us to item 4E, an agreement with the Nebraska Department of Transportation to install the automatic license plate reader system on state highway right-of-way.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. 4F, acceptance of the Department of Justice Office of Violence Against Women grant award in the amount of $550,000 to improve criminal justice responses to domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking.
Good morning.
Oh,
Sorry,
excuse
go
me.
ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
but I just know that. I would move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Let's hear from,
Yeah, let's hear it from you, though.
Let's not miss this.
Good morning. Sarah Hoyle, Director of City of Lincoln and Lancaster County Human Services. So this particular grant award is a competitive grant. It's the first time that our jurisdiction has been awarded this grant. We are excited to receive it. So the funding goes to build up our victim services in the community. Funding will directly go to the Lincoln Police Department, to Voices of Hope, to Friendship Home, to the Asian Cultural and Community Center, to El Centro. So we are excited with this opportunity and look forward to, again, building up victim services in our community.
it's a great opportunity.
Great opportunity, yeah.
Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
you.
4G, and acceptance of the Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Grant Award in the amount of $1 million to be used to support a resource center designed to serve juveniles experiencing behavioral health crises.
This is an exciting one.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, Sarah Hoyle again. This particular grant we are super excited with. We were one of 3 sites to receive this funding, so it's a pretty big deal here. It's to build up our Family Resource Center, which is now called Square One through our marketing team, so we're excited with that. Again, this is a partnership with Lancaster County, the City of Lincoln, and Region 5 Systems, really to build a place for families to go who are in crisis. It's those children that we have in our community who are experiencing a behavioral health need, and they don't meet that medical necessity to get services at CAPS, but they're too high needs, they're in crisis, and they need a place to go at Saturday night at 9 p.m. So this particular place will be in the community now to serve our families, so we're excited with this opportunity.
So my biggest question is, in Square One, is that O-N-E or is it the numeral 1?
It's the word,
Okay.
yes.
Square
As
one.
I begin to talk about this and
Yeah.
write it, I want to be sure I'm
Yeah.
getting it right.
Super excited.
Approval.
Oh, absolutely. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Brings us to 4H, documents in support of the county's application to the U.S. Department of Energy for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, specifically the Davis-Bacon Act Assurance Letter, the National Environmental Policy Act Statement of Work, and an authorization letter.
Good morning, Nikki Cease, Lancaster County Grant Coordinator. On August 22nd of this year, we submitted our application for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant to the Department of Energy. We've now reached the next phase in their approval process and are being asked to provide some additional information. So that's what these 3 documents are. The first one is the Davis-Bacon Assurance Letter, which basically says that we will pay laborers and mechanics a fair wage while carrying out this project. Then we have the National Environmental Policy Act Statement of Work, which is just standard boilerplate language related to the Department of Energy and the NEPA requirements. And the last one gives me authorization to communicate with the Department of Energy and serve as the contact for this grant. Were there any questions?
The question is it energy efficiency and conversation?
Conservation.
Conservation.
Yes.
Okay, we need to make a correction.
Little correction on the agenda here, yeah.
I would move approval.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Please call the roll.
Vest,
spell check got it right. It's just the wrong word.
Right.
Right, right spelling wrong. Vest, yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And just, we were good to approve all 3 items in one go that way?
Yes, that was good.
Great.
That was my understanding.
Brings us to the next item, 4I, an interlocal agreement with the City of Lincoln for the installation of 4 election drop boxes at Lincoln City Library branch locations.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Wilchin, Lancaster County Election Commissioner. If you recall, during our budget hearings, I came before you and we had a conversation about the Dropbox locations that we currently have. It's an ongoing concern that we have one Dropbox for 200,000 registered voters, 244 exactly. And we looked at the numbers that other counties, we call them the Big Four. Douglas County utilizes 13 drop boxes. Sarpy County utilizes 7, and Hall County utilizes 1. And so if you look at the drop box locations per registered voter, you will see that Lancaster County is an outlier. This is obviously a concern. As more voters are voting early, that trend is not going to continue. The accessibility of Dropbox locations in Lancaster County need to improve. And that was the discussion we had during my budget presentation. I did include money, $20,000, to install 4 Dropbox locations. These locations in the interlocal agreement will be the Gear, Isley, Walt, and Anderson Branch libraries, located in the 4 corners of the city, and it's, again, will be more accessible to the voters, especially in the rural parts of the county. As you look at the distance between our office at 46th and R, it's a large distance to many of the voters in the rural part of Lancaster County. And just one other point, and I think Commissioner Vest had asked me this morning, in the city elections, of the people who voted early, we had 35,162 voters who voted early using early vote ballot. Over half of those were returned at a drop box. Over 17,974. And so what that issue creates, if you've been to the election commissioner's office or if you've been to the treasurer's office across the parking lot, that does create a traffic issue. During the city elections, we had cars lined out to 46th Street waiting to drop off their ballots. And so it's definitely a security issue, safety issue for the public. And so with that, I would just answer any questions that you have.
Do you have any questions from the board?
You talked about different counties
Right.
using drop boxes, Todd, and the idea behind it is easy access for the voters. I mean, if everybody has to drive to one location in the center of town, that's adding miles on to a lot of folks who do choose to vote early, do choose to put their ballot in a box as opposed to mailing it. Tell us about what's going to look like at the 4 sites that are proposed here.
Right, so in the 4 locations, there's already drop boxes for depositing library books. These will be standalone boxes in the same general area as the drop box, but they will be standalone. They will be in compliance with state law. 32-950.01 requires that if you do utilize the drop box, they must be a standalone. They must be secured to the ground, either in concrete or in dirt. We will secure these in the ground with concrete. The drop boxes that we're going to be utilizing are the ones that we currently use. They're widely used. They are the most secure drop boxes that are available. There are 3 major companies that do provide the drop boxes. This is the one that we currently use, and by far it's the most secure, and the design is ADA compliant.
And then the boxes during election cycles, what will be the plan for picking up ballots? How's that handled?
So by law, again, the boxes have to be open during an election. And the law says that we have to have them open 42 days before the election. And so what will happen is, these drop boxes will have locks on them. So when they're not in use during election, they will be locked. There was concern by the libraries that people might drop books in them. So when they're not in use, they will be locked. We will have a permanent staff person inspect them on a weekly basis, making sure that they're still secured and they're locked, and report any issues that may arise. And then 100 days before the election is when we will mail out our early vote ballot requests. And then we will unlock them at that point, and then we will start doing bi-weekly visits to retrieve the early vote ballot requests. And then, like I said, once the early voting starts, then we're required to pick them up daily. And so they will be, and those pickups will, by law, be 2 individuals from differing parties. There will be a log. I mean, these ballots, we currently document every ballot that we mail out. We make sure that there's a valid request in writing for that ballot. We generate a log of a roster of all early vote ballots. And then when they're returned, either currently by mail or by drop box, those are logged into the voter registration system. And that information is included in the final absentee roster.
And so
for
if
each
there were
election.
items in that drop box that did not match your ballot roster, they would be,
Well, I'm assuming you're asking if somebody had dropped a ballot. Okay,
yeah,
so.
any item, but
Any
certainly a
item.
ballot,
So
a mock
what
ballot or
happens
something.
is we generate a roster whenever we mail out a ballot. And so if someone were to drop in a ballot that we did not mail out, we would not accept that. It would be rejected. We would contact law enforcement and initiate an investigation.
That's all the questions I have.
I just want to clarify one thing. First of all,
Yeah.
you said you were using the word locked and unlocked a few different times. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying it's locked to the public during non-election season.
It will be locked to the public. Yeah, there's a lock.
Election season, the drop box is unlocked, but the container continues to be locked,
It'll be secured.
secured.
Yeah, it'll be a double lock, requiring 2 separate keys. The drop box will be made of stainless steel. They are the most secure drop box available.
You described a minute ago to the state law that says that secured boxes must be affixed to concrete or to dirt. I understand that kind of generally correctly. Is that the state law, or is that just were you describing what this one?
No,
will be?
that is the state law. It was enacted a few years ago, and I have a copy of it right here. Yeah, so it's there you have it, and all the requirements for a drop box, it, again, has to be affixed to the ground.
So this was done after what year was this one done? Is this?
I believe it was in 2021.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was, I'm sorry, it was 2022, LB 843. Apologize,
So this would be like in response to the fact that we didn't have boxes secured to the ground at libraries in Lincoln,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah, so in the 2020 election, there were, I believe, 10 additional drop boxes that were at the 8 public libraries in the city of Lincoln and in the village offices of Hickman and Waverly. And those were, the ballot boxes were on the counter in the, I believe, in the office or the common area. And every night, those ballots were, at closing, parties of 2 people went and retrieved those. But they weren't affixed permanently to the structure.
Okay.
And so,
What's the currently, I mean, I guess you described lots of people using the Dropbox, and it kind of feels to me like, well, if you're getting enough people there, like why change something that's not broke? We're getting a lot of people that are 18,000, they're already dropping to one box. Why fix that? Like why?
you're asking why we don't make them more accessible?
No, I'm asking if if a lot of people are already using one box, like why do we need to change that?
Well, just the numbers that I presented. I don't think you can justify only having one ballot box for 200,000 registered voters, regardless of how many people vote early. I think that number is a problem. I think that is something that we needed to fix. We talked about it during my budget hearing, and I think the community has, spoken. Those ballot drop boxes were popular when they were utilized, and there's a lot of people right now after the election who complain that they do not have access to a drop box, and so at some point, that becomes an issue. That again is much larger in the context of elections and how they're being administered.
Our current Dropbox has video surveillance, correct?
The office has video surveillance. The Dropbox is, it's on our property, but it's not for the Dropboxes, it's for the office.
Okay, so will these boxes have the chance, the new ones have the chance to have video surveillance?
They do not. Right now, the libraries do not have any cameras on the exterior at the Dropbox location. Libraries are very sensitive to privacy, as we had that conversation, you had that a few minutes ago. And so they do not utilize video surveillance of libraries.
Was there a conversation about possibly including that in this?
There
I know
was
that's
not.
one of the big concerns that many people in the public have is people dropping off more ballots than they're permitted to, things like that.
Right. There was a conversation. I did ask if there were cameras. Then libraries said no, they're not. And so, again, libraries are not a requirement of the state law.
And remind me again what the crime that people are charged with if they are,
Right.
if they do
Right.
try to submit a false ballot.
Right. So just in general, most crimes involving elections are a Class 4 felony.
Oh. That seems like a deterrent.
So, any other questions?
Questions? I see no other questions.
Awesome, thank you.
Are there any questions from the public? Or comments, I'm sorry. Again, I'm going to remind you again, 3 minutes is our limit. Please state your name, please sign in, and we will limit you to coming to the podium one time on this item.
So Robert Bohr, again, doing something because somebody else is doing it is a really bad argument. And what you just saw right there was election fraud naivete on full display. Now I'll start with my little narrative here. Who is really behind this stupid idea this time? Last time, in 2020, it was Sean Flowerday. He begged Zuckerberg for some of his partisan election interference money so he could get partisan drop boxes installed all over the county. I have the receipts. I have Flowerday's application. I have the final report documenting where the nearly $400,000 and $500,000 was spent. The first reason he stated on his application for why he wanted the money, drop boxes. The third, vote by mail supplies. The second, PPE. But our Secretary of State, when he said that money was used for PPE, lied. None of it, according to the final documentation, was used for PPE. Again, I ask, who's behind this stupid idea? What ill-intentioned entity is our election official, Wilkin, catering to? Either way, he is in the wrong business. He wants to promote unsecure, remote voting so people can illegally electioneer all day long. He wants to turn our libraries into unmanned polling places where fake voters can drop off fake ballots all day long. After which he will take those fake ballots and have the fake votes thereon counted by his secret election interference software. Hello? Is anybody home? Don't kid yourself. Election manipulation is big business. Any fool can see that, see the reasons why 100 miles away. The reasons? Power and money. Here's what happened after the 2020 fiasco where we had all these drop boxes. 2 of Lancaster County's precincts were selected for hand count audit. In the first, 322 ballots were never accounted for. In the second, 284 ballots were never accounted for. And I brought this to the attention of Shively and the SOS. Nobody wants to speak to it. Again, how are these audits? Okay, quoting prominent pollster Rasmussen, election fraud renders scientific election forecasting worthless. I'm going to have to skip. Fraudulent elections effectively amount to taxation without representation, and much worse than that. We all know where the Boston Tea Party went. No one here has any legitimate authority because no one here has any proof that they were actually elected. Open Meetings Act is a joke.
That is your time. That is your time. Thank you.
Period. Anybody else want to read the rest?
Janine Pressler from Lancaster County. These are a couple of examples from an affidavit by Becky Moravec. She is concerned about the occurring events that happened while she was working at the Lancaster Election Commission in Lancaster, Nebraska. She was just a temporary employee, which in reality she was a teacher by trade. She says, about 2 weeks before the 2020 election, our computers went down for about 30 minutes. The administrative services officer, directly under David Shively, Becky Moravec, told us that the IT department for the state did not know what had happened. The database of registered voters and absentee ballots that had been registered as received by our office is in these computers. I saw the Democrat Deputy Election Commissioner, Maura Kelly, in the back room after ballot boxes from the Lincoln County libraries were delivered. And she was sitting by herself, and she was going through the boxes by herself. She also had a pen, and I saw what looked like she was marking something. There's something fishy about the ballots from the library, and nobody sees what's been dropped off. On another day, I was given a mail tray with absentee ballots that had been completed and returned to our office. I was told to scan the outside envelopes into our computer and just glance at the signatures to see if they matched. If I had any envelopes that looked like the signatures didn't match, I could put them aside. But Becky Moravec said, "But we are not the signature police." This was the only tray that I was given, and I apparently wasn't going fast enough because she came in and took the tray away, and I was never given another tray during the entire election. I did have several envelopes that I had set aside because they did not look like they matched. Becky Moravec took away these envelopes along with the rest of the tray of absentee ballots. She took it to the front and had someone else take over. This is an example of another way cheating takes place in our elections. We don't need more drop boxes. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Wayne Smith. I'm opposed to installing any more drop boxes. There's no pandemic, which was the reason for installing the drop boxes in 2020. Anyone who watched 2,000 Mules knows that this is a terrible idea. It's much easier to mail the ballot than it is to go to the library. The boxes will not be supervised. In 2020, the drop box at Gear, which is the only one I'm familiar with, was not supervised, even though it was inside the library, and it wasn't on the counter. It was near the entrance, and nobody was watching it. And I talked to Dave Shively about the security. Drop boxes open up another venue for ballot stuffing. They would make our elections less secure. I'm not interested in my taxes being used for election drop boxes. Even though the funding has been secured, doesn't mean it has to be spent. use the money for something worthwhile or don't spend it at all. You're going to have extra expenses for people traveling back and forth, trying to collect the ballots, and you're going to pay them mileage. So there's going to be extra expenses, and that's probably over and above the $20,000 that Todd mentioned. A Pennsylvania state senator said, drop boxes are breeding grounds for suspicious activity. Are you going to recruit round-the-clock drop box watchers to ensure security of our elections? Will the boxes have cameras? And that was just answered. Anyone who is interested in election integrity will vote no on this proposal. Thank you very much.
As an RNC member, I wanted to
State your name.
Fanchon.
And then when you're done,
I will
sign
sign.
him.
I already did once. As an RNC member for the Republican Party, we passed a resolution for election integrity, and I brought a copy for all of you to read, please.
Excuse me.
Mr. Wilchin, I can't believe, as a Republican, you are even wanting to bring drop boxes back to Lancaster County. I have a question. Have you talked to our Secretary of State about bringing more drop boxes back in? Can he come to the podium and answer my question?
No, go ahead with your testimony.
I'm sure you haven't. I know Mr. Evening is totally against drop-off boxes. Mr. Wilchin, at my salon during COVID, a client came in and witnessed a person taking a handful of ballots and dropping them off at one of your libraries. Thank you, Mr. Schulte, for asking my question about having cameras. There was no cameras then. There's no cameras in the state law, and you know darn well you do not plan on putting cameras in the library with your drop-off boxes. There is no more chain of custody when these ballots are taken from somebody and put in a drop-off box. You already had, like Mr. Schulte said, a very successful rate of ballots turned back in to your office there on 46th Street. So why change it? I don't understand. Do you not understand election integrity? Have you even watched 2,000 Mules? Probably not. Our Secretary of State said in a private meeting with two of my friends that he knows mail-in ballots is a huge problem. So I would suggest to you, Mr. Wilchin, that you go and sit down with Bob Evening and speak to him about what your plan is to do. Just because we have the money doesn't mean you have to do this. It's stupid. It's wrong. You need to be for the people, we the people, election integrity. And once again, please sit down and watch 2,000 Mules.
Hello, my name's Penny. So let me get this straight. You want to put a camera on my license plate, but you don't want to put a camera on the mail-in ballots. Okay, I'm hoping my iPad will show up here on the overhead. Okay, here we go. This is Secretary of State Bob Evan admitting the problem with the mail-in ballots the day after our election. Oh, sorry, I turned it off because, you know. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's back this up. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Over 430,000 Nebraskans voted by mail in 2020, but around 25,000 never returned their ballot. Secretary of State Bob Evan questioned why they never got it back.
My concern is, did they receive them? If they received them,
what happened to them? Did they just decide not to cast a vote? Did they put it in a pile of mail and it got to be too late? Or did something else happen to them?
Percentage-wise, more people returned their ballot for the general election than they did in the May primary. But Evnen is pointing to the raw number of 25,000 as a reason to possibly change the law.
When we mail ballots out to people, as soon as we put them in the mail, we lose control over them. And
There you go. Do not approve this. This is just another way for fraud to occur in our state. Please give Nebraskans their vote. Give them their voice back. Thank you. Please vote against this. No drop boxes.
Please
Hi.
state your name and be sure that you sign in.
Okay, I will sign in.
That's fine.
I'm Dawn Liphart. I'm currently serving as the executive director of the Nebraska Republican Party. And I'm here on my own behalf because election integrity is a huge issue for me. I want to say thank you to Todd Wilchin, Commissioner Wilchin, for highlighting that other counties also have a lot of drop boxes. That I will be sure to make them aware too that within their counties they're also having an overwhelming number of people dropping information off in their boxes. So I appreciate that. I will say I believe this is a waste of time and money and taxpayer dollars. In this state, the voters overwhelmingly passed a voter ID law. Okay, we want election integrity, and we stated that on a ballot. The people have spoken, and I want to make you aware that what's being worked on now is that there's going to be a cleanup bill that will be coming this next legislative session for the voter ID bill. You should not implement a plan that would be able to follow wouldn't be able to follow more specific legislation that includes presenting a photo ID at the moment of casting a ballot. You can't show ID when you put that ballot in that box. Okay, that's a problem. And we have a huge problem in this state with that, and the people are watching all over the state. Third-party ballot harvesting will encourage voter fraud, no doubt. The information is there if you seek it, if you want the truth. Drop boxes will promote the abuse of ballot harvesting. You have no way, especially with no cameras, of knowing that someone's not going to put 50 ballots in at a time. Just because the ballot goes out and it's registered and it's clocked back in and registered again does not mean that that is the voter that voted on that ballot. What would you do to keep these boxes from being tampered with? I'm glad to hear that they will be secured to the ground, which they were not previously. You need to do your due diligence as commissioners to make sure that if you're going to do this, you've done the full research behind what would go into these ballot boxes. I don't see a problem with what we have now. The people of this county voted against having so many ballot boxes before. We were outraged that Zuckerbucks came into this county, and we fought that. Have you ever read the book Rigged by Molly Hemingway? I'd employ you to do that, because that will highlight what really happened to our elections. It's so interesting to me that decades ago, the Democrats were complaining for years about election fraud and election integrity in this country, and all of a sudden the gears switched. And now we're screaming about what is happening in our elections, and we're being called.
Your time.
Okay, thank you.
That book that you just
Rigged by Molly Hemingway.
I appreciate
I have several more if you want a list of books. I'm reading some great stuff.
I'd be
now.
glad to chat with you afterwards a little more about that.
Good morning, Roger Pressler, Lancaster County, and I'm reading an affidavit that was submitted by a temporary employee who worked in the Lancaster County Election Commission during the 2020 election. She said, "We received thousands of duplicate requests," and I'm going to repeat that, received thousands of duplicate requests. We looked up each one and checked to see if it was a duplicate and filed them. We used the first request. I saw voters come in, sign the form, and get an early ballot, but I did not see them ask for any voter identification. People were wearing masks and coat, and it would have been hard to identify them if someone had came in multiple times. I was moved to a back room, out of the back room, because a couple guys came in with bags and tools, and I was told, and quote, "These guys are going to get the machines up and going," unquote. This was a week before the election, and I saw them working. It's concerning that you can pick up your own ballot and 2 other ballots at Lancaster County Election Commission in Lincoln without showing any identification or having any documentation. You just have to give them a name and address of the names of whom you're getting the absentee ballots for. I can see a problem with this. If you look around Lincoln and you see all these apartment buildings going up, you could have one bad player, like a manager, have all these names of all the people that are there and have their addresses and go in multiple times wearing a mask and get hundreds or maybe even thousands of ballots that he could vote or have some group vote. And so, and again, I agree with the comment. You guys just approved money for license plate identifications. If you do not have cameras, even at the one at the election commission, there's not a secure camera outside that, looking at the one drop box they have, you should have that. The election commission should request that. Thank you.
Did he leave the affidavit? Roger, were you going to leave that affidavit with us? And I think your wife had one, or I don't know, I'm making an assumption.
These are just copies of the...
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Connie Ranke, and I would like you to vote no for these drop boxes. And the number one reason, and this has been showed before, this is Lancaster County's 2020 election, where 86,000 early ballots were in effect. That was a planademic. Are we expecting another one? Is this why we're adding the boxes? Truly. I want to bring your attention to this, the lines on this graph. The bottom red line is votes, the black line is registrations, and then you see the population. If we created a system and the process was secure, then there's no problem with putting these drop boxes in. But we have fraudulent elections, and we have proof of this fraud. I want to mention registrations jumped to 87% of the population. So this registration line is dramatically higher. In the past, it was down at 65% for decades. And then all of a sudden at the 2020 election, registrations jumped up. What does this have to do with mail-in and drop boxes? There were 36 counties in Nebraska, and that's with the fact that 4% of the population were felons. 36 counties were over-registered by these huge amounts over the population. Registrations had to be increased dramatically up. The reason why is because we had the same type of effect for votes. They were increased significantly, or we would have had votes going over the registrations. 12,000 ballots were dropped at one drop box in the last 24 hours in Douglas County. Allie French has record of this and has documentation on it. She called the election commissioner, and they looked at the screen, and they keep track of the drops. The problem with these drop boxes is that they're often used at the very end for
That's your
fake
time.
ballots to be dropped.
That's your
in.
time. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peggy Sismanic. You probably know that by now. I was here last week. I have a little bit of a question, because last week when I was here, you gave me 5 minutes to speak. And I realize there's more people here today, but I counted at the outset when you said 3 minutes, and there were less than 20 people. And I was here, you know, I've been here like multiple times, as have a lot of these people. And at one point you said we had an hour for all the public comment. Well, 20 times 5 is an hour. And so why didn't we get the 5 minutes?
This
Just
is
a
not,
question.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to respond to that. This is not public comment. This is testifying on this specific agenda item. That's the difference.
The rules are the same.
Yeah,
though,
but
for both.
you said that about public comment, there would be 3 minutes. You said that from the outset
No.
when, yes, you did.
I'm not going
You
to
can
argue.
look back at your video, but that's what you said, I think. Anyway, I don't want to have a fight, and I didn't think we could have comment back and forth anyway. Somebody presented information that showed the 4 cities with the most, I think it was Todd Wilchin, with the most boxes were Douglas, Lancaster, Hall, and Sarpy. Well, isn't it curious that those were 4 of the 5 counties that had the most problems with elections? And they have the most drop boxes. Well, Lancaster doesn't, because he showed they had 1. And then Todd Wilchin also said that there's people that have come to him or called him or, I don't know, somehow contacted him saying they're wanting more boxes. Well, where are they today? Where's this crowd that wants all the drop boxes? It's only us that are here not wanting them that are here. So why don't they come and do, or maybe you get emails from them. I don't know, but it seems like if they're so intent on, you know, we need more drop boxes, well, why aren't they here, you know, forcing that issue? I don't know. That's kind of curious too. Somebody mentioned 2,000 mules. I think you should all see it. It does show severe problems with drop boxes. And, you know, they took it from a very high end. They only showed people that were doing like 10 or more drops at like 10 or more boxes. I don't know, it's been a long time since I saw it. They didn't show everybody, but it would be good to see it. Chain of custody, I think that doesn't matter, chain of custody with your elections, because if it's true that Smartmatic is the operating system in all of our election machines, it's not gonna matter what ballots are there, they've got it set for rigging anyway. I'm just hoping that all of you are interested in the truth. We should all want the truth
That is
about
your
our
time.
elections.
Thank you.
Peggy,
The truth.
I would respond to your question and say that I've never heard from anybody in the public that they need more drop boxes. And I've heard from a lot of people in the public. That's never been an email that I've got or that we've received as a whole commission during my time here. Does that mean it didn't come before? I don't know, but I've never received an email.
Yeah,
about
and
that.
I'm not saying Todd Wilson's a liar or anything like that. Maybe he has, but if they're that concerned, why aren't they here? That-
Yeah, it's a very valid point. If someone has a concern about that, they should be here to share that idea for sure.
Yeah, we do have more members of the public here, so.
I just want
let's
to
go
point out
ahead.
that our rules do actually say 5 minutes for this type of speech.
Can we go back up for 2 minutes each then?
No. We did announce, we've often done this when we've had things on the agenda that we've go to 3 minutes. We are allowing 5 minutes during public comment at the end of the meeting for items that are not on our agenda, as we always do.
Actually, it says we always do for this type as well. But what it says in the rules.
This time limits may be extended or
Time limits
reasonably
may be-
decreased at the discretion of the.
Correct.
board
So
chair.
my point was that the chair is choosing to limit speech,
Correct.
not us as a board.
Yeah, but it seems like it was because of the
This-
election issue.
We're ready for the
That's
next.
just what it appears.
It's due to the amount of speakers and the time that we have. We have a pretty full agenda. We've got several items we've not gotten to yet. Let's proceed.
I'm Paul Revere. The British have come and they're here. This is a cell phone. You can track cell phones. You put a little fence around this computer, you can find out how many cell phones came to this little area right here for this computer. Well, it was done with Lincoln's drop boxes. And the one down here, downtown, for the 2020 election, the same cell phone showed up 437 times. No problem there, huh? I would say so. Here's a prominent pollster called Rasmussen and what he had to say recently. Election fraud renders scientific election forecasting worthless. Election systems reliant on excluding public scrutiny are not actually election systems. They are publicly funded crime syndicates secretly delivering public jobs for their highest bidders. Democratic governance is a republic that cannot be legitimized via fraud. End of quote. Fraudulent elections effectively amount to taxation without representation, real representation. And much worse than that, we all know where things went after the Boston Tea Party. I'm ready. I am. Let's get back up and review a few facts. No one here has any legitimate authority, since no one here can provide proof that they were elected by the people and not by fake voters, fake ballots, and fake counts. Wilchin has no legitimate authority, since he has no proof the governor who appointed him was elected by the people and not by fake voters, ballots, and counts. But despite Wilchin's illegitimacy, he could still administer transparent, public, verifiable elections, but he chooses not to do so because he's a hireling without intestinal fortitude. An open meeting act without an open election act is retarded. This meeting, like our elections, is a sham, and that is your time. Rest of Robert Boers. Okay. Thank you.
I first believe that it's important to say shalom to Israel, and as well as this is our nation America, to stand with Israel in protection. But as we know, there's corruption in our government. There's also corruption in other countries' governments, and there are questions into areas in Israel defense and why they weren't present in other areas that normally they are. And so again, I just say shalom to Israel, and that I, as an American citizen, stand with Israel. Our elections have been taken over. There's fraudulent activities, and it's very interesting to me that we are told, where's the evidence, and we're asked, where are the cast vote records, where's the source code? Then we were told by Secretary of State Wayne Baina, deputy I should say, whether the cast vote records exist, they do or don't exist according to public records laws. How confusing is that? It's a circle of insanity, because clearly the answers don't want to be answered. And I find it very interesting that in 2022, David Shively removed the drop boxes pertaining to legislation that was proposed in the Nebraska State Legislature. So we stand here today. So two things. The Nebraska State Legislature sold this out, did not bring a true voter ID bill, but rather loopholes for people and making it easier for them, even if they are not a registered voter, to vote. The accountability is not a voter ID bill, it is deception, and we were played by the globalist agenda here in the Nebraska State Legislature. Furthermore, What does this tell us that Election County Commissioner Todd Wilchin is coming forward and asking for more drop boxes? It right now, to me, is indicating that the Nebraska state legislature has not one state senator perhaps has anything to do away or make a state law saying there will be only one drop box at the county commissioner offices or within the county clerks, and how the counties in their protocol, whether they do or do not have a county election commissioner or a county clerk. The county clerks, my understanding, I spoke with someone in a recent county, not here in Lancaster, but that the cast vote record, they have the 2020 ballots and had to keep them by hand. But they're not being released because the Secretary of State, Bob Evnen, doesn't want to release it. So I find it very interesting, 25,000 missing ballots in 2020. Where'd they go? We don't know. Interesting enough, Colorado, 25,000 ballots cast for people that don't even live in this state. Then I find it very interesting, our borders aren't being watched. We have millions of illegals here in the state. And if you go to the DMV.
Thank you.
Wait, is this 5 minutes on public comment?
That we are not on public comment. We are speaking on the specific agenda item.
Okay, so
this is 3 minutes.
Just a request in further going forward, reliable communication permits progress. And emotions are very heated because we don't trust our government and we don't trust you. Could you please outline that going forward? Thank you. God bless.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this agenda item? Seeing none.
There's no motion.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Oh, yeah, I thought we did make a motion.
I thought we did as
move
well, but
approval.
I believe.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve.
Legally, how can Dave Shively come back in a position when he was a former election county commissioner?
This comment is.
Yeah, this is out of order. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm asking legally, because I would say point of order, when does it become a conflict of interest?
You can call the county commissioners. There's the
'Cause
number listed on the agenda.
Because C-23-0013 with David Shively for professional election consulting services. He was our former, and it's now Wilchin. Why is he coming back to the Lancaster Election County Commissioner as a consultant?
We can address that if you want to send an email or a phone call. We can address that. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this. Please call the roll.
Actually, I want to make a comment still. I mean, I know we've had a lot of public comment, but I guess I don't see how someone can sit and listen to all this public testimony about election security and not be moved. The concerns shared by the public are clear. Drop boxes are rife for potential abuse. Are they being abused? We don't know for sure, but there's opportunity for potential abuse because they'll be unsupervised and unmonitored. All Americans should be concerned for election security. We need to be assured that our votes are being counted one for one. And that's why I intend to vote no on this.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just like to say one of the great things that I love about America is that we have this great diversity of perspective and opinions, and a lot of people love our country and see things differently. Our system is created to help take all that difference of opinion and move forward in a way that is most beneficial, not perfectly beneficial, but most beneficial for the citizens. All of us sitting here represent a big group of citizens, some of whom voted for us, some of whom didn't vote for us, and yet we have the responsibility. I didn't interrupt you, ma'am. I'd appreciate it if you didn't interrupt me. Thank you. We have the responsibility to take all of those opinions into consideration when we make decision. The issue before us at this time, and we've listened to a lot of issues about election security. There is concern among some citizens, and we've listened to that carefully. I don't see an action related to these 4 drop boxes here. It is my understanding that people are voting, 17,000 voted at 1 drop box. We all know that if given the opportunity in a location that was closer to their home, that number might go up. And this is for the benefit of those people, and I know lots of them, who take an early ballot, carefully consider their options in the privacy of their own home where they have time to do research, and then want to drop it off. The question of cameras came up. I think that's something we should evaluate, but I don't think it's a reason to stop the installation of these drop boxes at this time. But I do think that's something we should consider and discuss as we go forward. I just wanted to make that statement. I thank everyone for their time this morning, for giving us their opinions.
Thank you for that careful consideration and for your comment.
Before you all vote,
Any other comments?
Secretary of State.
Are there any other comments from the board?
I got them.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
No.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Oh, keep that out.
Item 4J, a release of easement for utilities within Outlot B, Sunrise Estates, second edition.
I'm dying. Can we do a 3-minute break?
Let's do this item since
cool.
it's been called, and then
Sounds
we'll
good.
take a 3-minute break.
Sounds good.
Good morning. Very quick description of this. This property's actually been annexed by the city already. I believe it's a little bit southeast of 84th and Holdridge. It's a replat of the Sunrise Estates first edition into the second edition. Thank
Okay.
you.
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve this easement. Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
We will recess, I'm sorry, for about 3 minutes. We'll meet back at 11:16.
I think we're good.
Should we wait for Dave, or are we okay?
Oh.
That was, as soon as he's here, I'm ready to go.
Christy, can you see Dave? Is he walking up?
One of my favorite organizations, Special Olympics,
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
needs officials for flag football.
Sounds like your thing, Rick.
Oh, I've done it. It's I mean, these people are just so much fun to hang out with.
We will now resume and proceed with our agenda. The next item is 4K, correct?
Correct. 4K, a recommendation from the purchasing agent on behalf of the county engineer to award a contract for unit price to Buell Trucking Incorporated for rock riprap in the total amount of $150,000.
Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. So, hey, we buy rock, 1-inch crusher run, we buy gravel. This is for riprap, which is really the fancy word for the big rock that we use at pipe outlets to repair bridges and to stop erosion around the county.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this purchase, to approve this recommendation. Please call the roll.
Amundson?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Vest?
Yes.
Yocum?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. 4L, recommendation from the purchasing agent on behalf of the county engineer to award a bid to JJK Construction LLC for replacement of County Bridge C-284 in the total amount of $762,087.41.
Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. So this is a bridge to box culvert project, and it's one of the 4 bridges that you as commissioners funded during this last budget session, which is kind of like the most ever. So in my tenure, I don't know if I can lose my license for saying I'm like totally stoked as the engineer that our estimate in the budget was, the budget amount was $1 million. And of course, we're well under that. So
Well under that.
I'm super excited to see some relief in the inflation of these structures, and we're hoping that we can continue to see that as we continue to bid all 4 of these bridges this fall.
Do you think that's a slowing of inflation or more competition for the bids?
You know, in all honesty, I think it is a wrapping up of the South Beltway, and that the contractors
Suddenly there's
have
way
more
more, yeah,
capacity.
that makes total
Because
sense.
we saw several very competitive bids for this structure. We're, again, super excited to get started on it. Similar to what we did on the Roca Road Bridge, we did offer incentives to finish early with this project and disincentives if you finish late. And so what we're hoping is that we can get this under construction and open for the new school year.
This seems like a good trend.
I move approval.
Second. Another one bites the dust, man.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Please call the roll.
Vest?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Yocum?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Brings us to 4M, recommendation from the Personnel Policy Board, and there are several. Revise the classification of building clean air manager. Request and revise the pay grade request to revise and change the pay grade of the following classifications for security guard and security guard supervisor.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Please call the roll.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Vest?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes.
Yocum?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Brings us to public comment. Those wishing to speak on items related to county business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
And again, during public comment, we do ask you to please state your name for the record, please sign in, and we will allow 5 minutes for this testimony on items not on the agenda.
Connie Reinke. When Wayne Benno was here, he mentioned that foreign actors tried to interfere with our elections, but they weren't very successful. I want to ask, were they successful or were they not very successful? Instead, foreign actors spread misinformation, and these citizens coming forward do not have vetted information. Affidavits, these affidavits and this algorithm proof are not misinformation, though they're proof. I just wanted to make that point. And as he spoke, he didn't bring anything that proves that our elections are accurate and secure. He said he met with citizens and he changed some things. I want to read another affidavit. This one is from Omaha. One of many problems during the day was a woman that came to my table who said she was registered to vote in Nebraska, but she was not on our list. She had moved to Nebraska from Iowa 10 years ago. She had even voted in Nebraska in preceding elections, but yet she was not on our list. And she received a mail-in ballot from her old Iowa address. Again, she didn't live in Iowa for 10 years. She was livid, to say the least. So one leader we had helped her fill out paperwork so she could vote that on the day. Another example of the problems was an elderly lady that came to my table to vote. Our records showed she had already voted by a mail-in ballot, but she had no memory of voting by mail. Just to make sure, the one leader had helped her fill out the paperwork so she could still vote that day. But that was just appeasing her. The first vote counts, and that she said she did not vote. How is this happening? There's a report that I will give you from Jeffrey O'Donnell and Walter Daughtery. They examined the voting machines because there was a backup version of the whole election in Mesa County, Colorado. One of the points, alarmingly, the voting system had internal Wi-Fi Bluetooth wireless adapters, allowing unauthorized external connectivity, including the internet. This opened the door for almost any computer with internet access anywhere in the world to connect to the software in the server. The machine made, another point, the machine made only the reprocessed ballot files visible to local election officials and hid the original, not processed ballot files, making the final vote counts exceed the number of ballots visible to election officials. In both elections, there were 2 elections in a row. After vote counting was underway, thousands of ballots that had already been counted were secretly reprocessed inside the voting machine, undetected by election officials. How does this apply? Todd Wilchin just mentioned that those mail-in ballots, as they come in, they're recorded. That specific person has sent in a mail-in ballot. Well, you heard in some of these testimonies that these people already had a mail-in vote or a vote in the system for them already when they came in. Now, a lot of our election officials are saying, no, there's no problems. There's no problems. This affidavit, she saw constant problems throughout the whole day. Mary Hamilton, who had the affidavit previously, had one thing after another that was occurring. We cannot say that there are not election problems. And the mail-in voting is a huge problem. So I hope that you will start an investigation, call the sheriff and get an investigation for all these affidavits that were dropped off to you a year and a half ago. Thank you.
Okay. Dawn Liphart. So this is the one book, Rigged, I want to encourage you all to read. It's a wealth of information written by a very great woman. What really happened in the 2020 election, millions of Americans who experienced the weirdest and most troubling election of their lives want answers. With unparalleled access to the key figures of that contest, Molly Hemingway has compiled the authoritative account of the 2020 election in a book that reinforces her reputation as one of America's most trusted and competent investigative journalists. Never was there such a heavy-handed meddling in an election by the most powerful institutions in the country. The press brazenly concealed unfavorable news about Joe Biden and his family while continuing its long disinformation campaign against President Trump. Big tech censored dissenters for the established narrative, with the Democratic Party manipulated a public health crisis to change the voting process in ways that left it laughably insecure. As accounts of irregularities aroused doubts about the integrity of America's electoral system, the media, marching in lockstep, dismissed every expression of skepticism as you are today, as self-evidently baseless. But as Hemingway's dogged reporting reveals, there are abundant reasons to suspect that election was rigged at every step. This devastating account exposes the fraud and cynicism behind the Democrats' historic power grab, which has destroyed the faith of millions of Americans in the press and our political institutions. It is also a reminder to the weary patriots that truth combined with courage is the weapon America's corrupt elites fear the most. I will not stand down and I will not be quiet any longer. I sat on the sidelines while people took our election system, and I will no longer do that. I will stand here with humble courage. This is one book. I shut the TV off. I don't watch any news since 2020. I don't even listen to the radio. I read. And I talk with people, and I learn the truth, and you should be doing that too. There's another book I'm reading. It's called The Parallel Election. It's written by Leah Hoops and Gregory Stenson. It's a blueprint for deception. It's evidence of massive election fraud in Delaware County, which is just south of Philadelphia. There's also another great book. It's called The Tyranny of Big Tech, written by Senator Josh Hawley. Excellent read on what big tech did to our election systems. If you allow these things to keep happening in our county, we will lose our country. We are losing our country, and I'm asking you to stand up for the right thing, for the American people. The state is watching, and they're talking about Lancaster County, and they're talking about Sarpy County, and they're talking about Douglas County. They know something is awry. And they're rising up to speak up against this. The body and our election commission, all of you election commissioners, should be securing our elections. The people doubt your ability to do that. We are extremely disappointed by this vote today, and we would hope for better in the future. You talked about security cameras, but that was only a talk. There was no action taken on that. Do the right thing for the American people. We'll lose this country, and you and all of us will regret that.
Hello again. Okay. I want to start with the election law 32960, which was referenced.
State your name again, just so that it gets into the
Okay.
record.
Penny Stevens. I'm from here in Lincoln. So the election law 32960 states county with less than 10,000 inhabitants, elections can be conducted by mail. So Lancaster County is way more than 10,000 people. I and my husband both received mail-in ballots. We never request, we have always voted in person. Not only did we receive mail-in ballots, we received them twice. There's misadministration here. Something is awry. The other thing, when we did go to vote in the 2020 election and we were standing there in line, a gentleman with broken English said he wanted to vote, but he had not registered to vote. And the election judge said, "Come with me. I can get you registered so you can vote." There's all kinds of stuff going on here. We can't persist with this. Here is a document, and I apologize, my toner was running out, but this shows all the various ways that our elections can be mishandled. These really need to be looked into. This is real. This is happening. And we're just tired of not having a voice to speak up for our vote. Thank you.
Amber Parker. You guys have all taken an oath to protect us from foreign and domestic enemies. The reality of the familiarity and the false sense of comfort zones here for commissioners across this nation is greatly troubling. To believe that we have a process that is actually taking place, not only in 2020, but to the present time, to say that we can trust it. What's even more troubling is to see the apathy. Where's the investigation? This is your guys' job, an investigation in our county on our elections. How can you protect us from foreign and domestic enemies when you're not even willing to look into our elections? And it's been very clear you have been willing to shut out the voices of the people who cannot be here during these hours for this meeting. We have asked you, we have begged, and we have pleaded to have a meeting. But instead, the way it went down is you invited the Deputy Secretary of State, Wayne Baina, you had the Election County Commissioner, Wilchin, and you basically gave them a platform to come and deceive the people, not only in this county, but across the state of Nebraska, to tell them their elections are secure. They are not secure. Our election process is not secure. Secure would mean that we would not have any loopholes of anything that foreign actors could use, access, or utilize for whatever means that they would try to do so. The election systems and software is an LLC. To me, that's a private business. Explain to me how an LLC, a private business, has been able to twist, not even twist the arm, but the Secretary of State of Nebraska to enter into a non-disclosure agreement that even if our machines were found with modems or hacked into, we the people could not know. But then we were told it's due to the way the makeup of that machine is. We need to do away with these machines. Now, what is it? Smartmatic. I encourage you, if I'm saying that name right, to look at that. I got a lot going through my mind. The other thing is our Nebraska State Legislature played us through the Thalians and Thespians Act of what they did with the voter ID. I don't trust them. I'm going to be very clear. This is a globalist agenda. Everybody in the state of Nebraska, you need to know you're focusing and watching videos on Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, all these people and elites. Well, know that you need to focus on the local level because they're pushing on the purses of the commissioners. Flower Day, your name was called out. I'm not here. I'm not your enemy, sir. I would go to a barbecue and talk with you guys on this. I am crying out because we have our military forces that go to protect us from foreign and domestic enemies, to protect us, the American people, to keep wars off our nation. But the sad thing is, war has happened on our nation. And the war, it's a different type of war. It's an information war. And it's a war about removing the power of the people and giving and making government as God. That is communism. It was reported by Marsha Blackburn that in Omaha, there was a Chinese police station. We have reports that our own mayor had taken a trip or trips funded by the People's Liberation Army of China, the CCP. It has came out that these Dell computers within election offices actually are filtered through a Chinese military official sent somehow to the United States of America and then put in the Nebraska election offices, if I'm saying that correctly, in the election offices. We know not only the issues of 2020, but we have asked relentlessly for the cast vote record. We cannot get the cast vote record. I'm asking you to do so. I'm asking you guys to do hand counting ballots at the county level. If they tell you you can't do it at the federal level pertaining to state law, if that's how they're claiming, then I'm asking each of you, please get to hand counting ballots. Do it. Don't wait on the state legislature. As for the Nebraska state legislature, you have the power to do away with these machines. It was your state senators that had the power to vote them in. We are over, $15 million on those machines. It is clear that you don't want transparency. We were told PPE, that money, Zuckerbucks. We didn't want Zuckerbucks. He silenced the freedom of speech on people on social media. We didn't want that money. And by elected officials deceived that it went for our safety, for our good, and what it went to was to open the door to rob us of our voices and our votes. Thank you.
Rick Hill, the deputy wanted to arrest me when I was leaving here because there is a warrant out for my arrest, but I thought I'd better take care of the appearance, so I got a 1:30 appointment over here, to go before the judge. I think one of the biggest things I gotta mention here, I will use a court of law to prove fraud, and I know I can do it. I have my third amended complaint I'm going to file later this week, and it's not going to be you four. It's going to start with the governor down to the Secretary of State and all 93 Nebraska county clerks. And I have a handful of these county clerks on board with me because they know it's a joke. I remember voting at 18 years old. Nobody had a problem with driving to the nursing home to vote or the school. We don't need extra ways to vote. One day, paper ballots, hand count. That will solve the problem. Because I don't think you want to be sitting there if you weren't elected, right? By the people. It's just wrong. I couldn't live with myself if I took a public office and stole money from the people for my own benefit if they really didn't want me there. Right? Well, I know one race here in town in the Northwest District, Nebraska Legislative District, I believe it was 26, help me. Was it 26? Russ Barger, he really won. But he wasn't allowed to count the votes because the magic machine is smarter. Okay. I gotta read you this because it's why I came up here I actually did this for the Nebraska Lancaster Party convention that we had, if I can even pull it up. It's in here. Okay. Can somebody back here figure out how to use my phone? Okay, where do documents go? Okay. Tony? Documents that one right there. I don't know if it's going to stay there. Okay, there. Thank you for bearing with me. It's called a delegate's complaint. When the people's votes no longer matter, we are living in a third world dictatorship controlled by this deep state. The scam is to make the people think they're voting or selecting. The day before the election, Eric Underwood issues an all-points bulletin that you just vote for Pillen. Voting for Bohr would split the vote and Blood would be governor. That statement was a lie from hell. Sorry. Pillen bows to shit.
That is 5 minutes. Is there anyone else wishing to speak during public comment? Seeing none, we can proceed with the agenda.
Announcements. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold a public hearing regarding the 1 and 6 year road and bridge improvement program on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. in room 112 of the County City Building. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold a staff meeting on Thursday, October 12th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. in room 112 of the County City Building. Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold the following meetings and public hearings on Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. in room 112 of the County City Building. The regular meeting, the public hearing regarding the vacation of portions of right-of-way east of the intersection of Northwest 40th Street and West Vine Street, located in Lancaster County, Nebraska. Public hearing regarding the amusement license application for Devin Ostrander to hold the No Shave Nebraska annual banquet on November 3rd, 2023 at Champion Seed. And Board of Equalization. County Commissioners can be reached at 402-441-7447 or commish@lancaster.ne.gov. Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting is broadcast live on LNK TV. LNK TV is available on Allo Channel 2 and Spectrum Channel 1300. For the rebroadcast schedule, visit lincoln.ne.gov. Meetings are also streamed live on YouTube and Facebook. LNK TV apps are available on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Schulte?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Best?
Yes.
Amundsen?
Yes.
Yogo?
Yes.
And passes 5-0.